Jim Furyk's captain's picks for the President's Cup have been released, and even though many are saying he went the safe route, it still has ruffled quite a few feathers, with multiple fans taking to social media to voice their frustration with guys like Justin Thomas not being on the team. But then we even saw JT flip the script a bit with a big announcement of his own, which he posted on social media yesterday. Regardless, though, this is the first time since 2012 that we're seeing a U.S. team, that's Ryder Cup or President's Cup included, that we don't have Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas on the team. So certainly mixing it up quite a bit. And we're going to talk about whether these picks are controversial or not. There's people who are on both sides of the fence. And there's even some players who didn't make the team speaking out, saying things like it hurts. And of course, these guys are playing for pride. They want to be on the team. So we're going to break that down. We're going to look at why some people are calling this a safe picks and why some people have been calling out Jim Furyk for his move. Before we do that, of course, we want to thank this episode's sponsor, Titleist. In pursuit of speed and playable distance, Titleist engineers developed a new material construction that unlocks the next generation of driving excellence. The new GT Driver Series represent the biggest technological leap ever in its Titleist design, and we got a chance ourselves to go and try them out. We went to TPI, we got fit. I got fit into the brand new GT2, which is really the ultimate of both speed and forgiveness. Great forgiveness across the face. I was able to pick up ball speed and carry distance with it. And Mike, you ended up in the GT3, which is really the ultimate of both speed and control. You've got that adjustability. You're able to really dial in. They have the GC track where you can really dial in that more dynamic, weight shifting. You were able to see tremendous
Mishits are
benefit.
going straight.
Yeah. Tremendous benefit from it. And you picked up ball speed and carry distance.
Everything went up.
As well. So it's something that you have to give a look for yourself. There's the GT4 as well, that low spin performance. You've got something in this lineup for everyone, but the way to really take full advantage of it is to go and get fit. So go to Titleist.com, find a fitter near you. You owe it to yourself to try the new GTs. So Mike, speaking about this, a couple of things. The first thing is and speaking about the player who kind of made some comments, Billy Horschel.
Yes.
There was a number of guys there that were just kind of on that cusp that could have made the captain's picks. One of them arguably was Billy Horschel, had a stronger end to the season. First time, we've really seen Billy in contention in a few seasons. Yeah. So it was nice to see.
Absolutely.
But he kind of knew it. It just similar to when we saw on Netflix when Keegan took the call, the heartbreaking call from Zach Johnson. He knew kind of right away that he didn't make the team. So what Billy had said was he gave me a call, meaning Jim Furyk, and he said I played hard, but it just wasn't meant to be. I didn't expect to make this team. I knew I was way down the list. I know I made a push a little at the end, but listen, it hurts because Jim is a good friend. I wanted to make the Ryder Cup team in 2018, and I wanted to make this President's Cup team because he was the captain. It's just not in the cards for me this year, but I'm going to really play hard next year to be a part of the Ryder Cup and Keegan's team next year. And I think what that just shows is that it's top of mind for these guys.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's got to be hard for guys like him who, he said it right there. He goes, I know I wasn't going to make it, but imagine you have a couple of good finishes. Like, it enters your mind. Like, maybe there's a chance. Jim's a good friend of mine. He knows how well I play, how much of a competitor I am. Maybe I'll make it, fingers crossed. But there's definitely disappointment there.
Yeah, and it's easy to make the argument that, and some fans may plead the case that President's Cup plays second fiddle to the Ryder Cup. But we even saw from JT, who we're going to talk about more in a moment, JT saying that he desired just as much to make the President's Cup as he did the Ryder Cup. It meant just as much to them. At the end of the day, these guys absolutely love the team camaraderie, the spotlight, and the ability to play and represent, their country. That being said, this kind of sets the stage for what we want to talk about here. So first and foremost, we gotta say, has picks in general, captain's picks, been forever changed by Zach Johnson's blunder?
I think so.
Right? And Zach was a guy who went out on a limb, and for whatever motivation, we talked about this a year ago when the Ryder Cup rolled around, whatever the motivation you want to think, whether it was just his friends, buddy club, or if it truly was a chemistry thing, remember Zach saying, like, you can't have, a Ryder Cup team without Justin Thomas. It just can't happen. But JT was way out of form last year when that came around.
Worse year last year than this year.
Exactly. So makes you wonder. Now, what we saw this time around is, and just as a refresher, it works a lot like the Ryder Cup. You've got a running points list. The top 6 guys automatically make it by points, and after that, there's 6 captains picks. Right? Where we're saying that Furyk kind of made the safe choice is effectively what he did was he didn't take any gambles. He just went through that list, and I'm not saying this is why he did it, but if you look at it, what he did realistically on paper is he picked the next 6 guys in order of points are his captain's picks. So in other words, what I mean by that is no one was leapfrogged. No one in the top 12 was left out in favor of someone else, which is what Zach Johnson had done.
That is rare.
Now, although rare, it's not unprecedented. It's been done before.
Sure.
It's been done by countless captains before. And it to me, it's just a very safe play. That being said, you have to really think about what the purpose of the captain's picks really truly is. And for me, it's, yes, there's team chemistry, there's things like that. But I believe that it's a vehicle for you to pick somebody who's in form. What I mean by that is, think about it like this. Let's say you've got unnamed players, player A and player B. Player A had a fantastic, both of these guys are outside the top 6, right?
Yeah.
But has a fantastic start to the season. January through April is playing lights out, but then hits a massive slump and does nothing for the rest of the year, really. Missed cuts, all that type of stuff. But he's in the conversation, maybe falls around 15 in the list, right? Take player B and just flip-flop it. Same amount of points, but starts the season terribly, in a slump, not going anywhere. We know that's what golf is. Golf can be very streaky, right? But turns it on the second half of the season, maybe wins an event or two, ends up with the same amount of points as player A, but this guy is hot right now.
Trending.
Right? Trending. To me, that is the reason for President's Cup and Ryder Cup captain's pick, is for you to be able to throw somebody on the team who hasn't accrued enough points because maybe they didn't start hot, but is in form. And we all know that's how golf largely works, you know, especially outside of when you got a situation now like Scotty Scheffler just dominates all year.
Right.
You get guys who get really hot. We saw this, talking about a snub, Glover last year.
We have 2 wins.
2 wins at the end of the season. That's why a lot of people said he should have been on that Ryder Cup team. He was hot. He was in form at
Keegan
the
won
time.
at the end of the year, or towards the end of the year, right?
Precisely. So this is where you have, as a captain, you have the ability to look through and say, okay, who didn't necessarily make the team by points, but is playing really well right now? I want that guy on my team.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, let's just, first and foremost, because a lot of people are jumping in, I just want to make clear, Bryson's not on the team because it's a PGA Tour event. A lot of people on social media were saying, where's Bryson, where's Bryson, where's Bryson?
Right.
The President's Cup, unlike the Ryder Cup, is run by the PGA Tour.
Which we could make that huge argument, which we've continued to do here, that we think that is another reason why we've got to get this mergers handled, because we're cutting off our nose to spite our face, leaving a guy like Bryson home.
Right. It'll be exciting to see him on next year's Ryder Cup if he has another stellar year like he did this year with these new picks and what Furyk has set, you know, in place here, eliminating the buddies pick, so to speak. I think we'll most likely see Bryson. Now, to your point, I think a name that's come up a lot also is Oscar Patia.
Yes.
Here's a guy, I think he won in April. Breakthrough, great job. He was trending, he was doing well, and then he kind of did nothing that well towards the end of the year. I think that's the answer of why he's not on the team. Why did he not get considered from Furyk? You know, guys like JT. JT made it to the Tour Championship. He made it to the top 30. He just had a terrible year. He didn't win. Nothing impressive.
Yeah.
You know, nothing that was really like, oh, this guy's trending. He's in form. So that's why those 2 guys are on the team. I can't personally, look at the list, I can't think of anyone outside the top 12 that deserved a look by Furyk.
And I think that's an important point to make, is that at the end of the day, and you guys let us know in the comments if we're missing somebody, if there's somebody you think that, you know, should have been in that conversation. But I didn't see anyone who was outside of the top 12, meaning someone in that top 12 of rankings would have had to have been benched or leapfrogged for somebody else. I didn't see anybody who was particularly hot enough that it was enough to step over somebody else.
Right.
An example, though, that I do think of that is Keegan Bradley, who got super hot, And there was where I would say, if Keegan hadn't worked his way into the top 12, if Keegan was a 13 or 14, but had the finish the season that he had, he would have been a guy that I think would have been a perfect captain's pick to put in.
Totally.
Okay.
Questionable. People might think he was a pity pick. You never know. If you're like, I don't want to just look like I'm
But
picking
when
him.
I say all the guys, if I take all the guys on the list, from the top 20, who was hottest that wasn't in the top 6, Keegan's in that conversation.
Sure thing. Yep, no doubt.
But again, so what Furyk did was, and it makes his life a lot easier, there was nobody that was really performance-based. And this is not chemistry-based. Performance-based, there was nobody in there who was worth leapfrogging over. Now, let's hear from the horse's mouth a little bit. Jim Furyk was asked why he didn't pick Justin Thomas, right? With Justin, as you mentioned, having a good showing at the Tour Championship, playing hard at the very end to try to make a case for himself. What Furyk said was, he's a great team room guy. He's going to play on a ton of these teams in the future as well, and one day be a captain and a great one. Tough a mission, but I had to take the 12 guys I saw fit.
Love that.
That's really it.
Everyone's
so he's saying, listen,
applauding that.
It's not his last at bat. He's going to play again. And there too, this is where it goes back to that conversation. There's nobody who wants to stick their neck out and be the next Zach Johnson.
Nobody. I feel like
all
he
the
ruined
love
his
in the
career
world
over
for
that.
Zach, but let's make the reality. You've seen things like Zach being booed at events, fan heckling. He's turned his comments off on a lot of his social media posts, I noticed, because he can't avoid the hate that he's gotten.
I don't think he can handle it. He's exploded on it.
And I don't think anybody else wants to be in that position. I think it would have been a huge sticking your neck out move for JT to be picked in favor of one of these guys. And you would have had to make the case, like you said, the team room guy, or some people I've heard them say that JT's a match play specialist and all that stuff. And doesn't matter his record, he would have played really well. He rises to the occasion. I get all that. But at the end of the day, you got to say it still would have been a bold sticking your neck out pick, and he could have ended up in the same position as Zach Johnson if they don't win.
Totally could have. And I know he wanted to definitely avoid that. Let me ask you this, though. Do you think it was Chad Mum and the whole Full Swing crew and that airing on Netflix that amplified Zach Johnson's situation by showing us the boys' dinner and all that stuff?
There's no doubt that we
felt his heartbreak.
We saw the buddy, and we got more insight, which is terrific. But I think even if you took Netflix completely out of the picture, I think it was a controversial pick either way, just because of how bad of a season JT had last year.
No doubt. It was just amplified because of the show.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that being said, first of all, what was the big announcement from Justin Thomas? He very quickly changed the narrative, announcing that he's going to be a father.
Soon. Like
very
November.
soon. Yeah. Yeah,
so he held on to that all season.
He kept that one in the back pocket. I would not say he kept in the back pocket intentionally for this. There's a lot of reasons you keep your personal life personal.
Right.
And I congratulate JT. I'm excited for him. I think it's great seeing this boys club. We remember spring break. These are like the dudes,
Speed,
out there.
Fowler,
party.
And Thomas. Yeah.
They got the kids, but I think it makes for incredible moments. I thought it was great seeing Scotty Scheffler putting his baby in the trophy. I digress. Regardless, though, I got to say, it was a smart move on JT's part to very quickly change the conversation by putting the announcement out the same day that he's going to be a father. And this way, headline-wise, less people are talking about him not making the team and more people are talking about him being a father. That being said, there are still people who are talking about him not making the team, and there are still some fans who were upset. So you guys let us know in the comments whether or not you agree with this. I kind of cherry-picked some statements that I saw on Twitter, on X.
Yeah. I saw the supportive ones for JT, but it was more agreement than support. It was more agreement with Furyk. It was more people jumping in and just dissecting his stats. He had a worse year than the year before. If he, this, that, and the other. So.
Well, let's see if there's any credibility to this. So one fan said there's quite literally zero reason for Brian Harman to be on this team over Justin Thomas. Interesting.
It's a tough one.
I mean,
he didn't have he's been silent.
First of all,
talk about trending. He's not there.
It's also impossible to say there's zero reason when there's one big glaring reason, and that's that Harman ended up with more points.
That's the reason he's on the team.
There's your big reason.
Yep.
Also, Another comment I saw, it said, if you were pissed Justin Thomas made the Ryder Cup team last year, you should be incensed Max Homa just made the President's Cup team. And he lists out Homa's record since May. T35, miscut. T22, miscut. T61, T70, T43, 70th, and T33. And it is hard to argue that that is a really tough record since May. We talked about being in form versus out of form. He's out of form there. But he still ended up in that top 12. He still accrued the points that he needed to over the span, and he had more points than Justin Thomas. It's just, I don't think there was anything, even with his strong finish at the very end. JT, to me, and you guys can argue this point if you don't believe me, if you think it's not right, but JT to me didn't do anything convincing enough to overcome that points difference.
Yeah, no, he didn't. I think JT, he could have had the opportunity. I think Max was the guy on the bubble that I think could have, went the other way with the captain's pick.
But listen to this. This is JT's record in that same span.
Yeah, let me hear
T21, T8, misses the cut at the U.S. Open, T5 at the Travelers, strong finish there, but T62, T31, T30, T39, T13. To me, that is nothing that it's just like they stack up against each other, and this is like an obvious point.
Right.
That there was a couple of top 10 finishes there, which Max Homa did not have, but Max came in with more points over the whole span. So it's tough. Brian Harman, record's not necessarily much better. Listen to this. T47, T24, T33, T21, T60, T45, T50, tied for 25th place, solo 25th. So there's a lot here. I want to keep digging into this, and I want to talk in a second just about some of the other guys that we think could have maybe been on that conversation. But first, let's do a quick word from our other sponsor, FootJoy. And FootJoy is the #1 shoe in golf because they offer the widest selection of sizes, styles, and performance options than any other shoe out there. Guys, I've been talking about this, week in and week out all summer long. Been absolutely loving the Hyperflex and wearing that out there. Love the combination of both real performance out of it and style. So many great colors. You want to look good, play good, that whole thing.
Yeah, no
FootJoy's got you covered. Plus, all different weather. Rain comes through, waterproof, everything like that. It's something you got to try. Trust the brand that's been #1 forever. Trust your game to FootJoy, the #1 shoe in golf. If you haven't already given them a look, now's the time to do it. Whether it's the Hyperflex, the Premier Series, so many great options out there. Look good, play good, give them a try. So just hopping back into it. Who, if anything else, though, do you feel like should have been in that conversation?
I kind of think they got it right.
Yeah.
It's not just a cop-out. I'm looking at the
hard to make an
lists,
argument against it.
So, and here's something we haven't done. Let's just give it to you. Scheffler, Schauffele, Morikawa, Clark, Cantlay, Thigala. By the way, Thigala, I'm excited to see him in the President's Cup.
Absolutely.
Talk about trending. He was a treat to watch at the Tour Championship.
Also, low-key, I'm going to say this. Thigala is emerging as like the people's champ. The latest. Absolutely love not only what he did with the penalty and assessing and like just showing his true sportsmanship with that 2-stroke penalty. But if you follow him on social media, or even more so, you want an interesting follow his girlfriend on TikTok.
She was making fun of him.
And you know what? It's funny.
Boyfriend cost me $25 million.
But you watch these two, and they're the most down to earth couple.
Yeah,
they are. It's worth a look. I digress. Go ahead.
No, I think that's a great point. But he's exciting. I'm excited to see the pairings that he's going to be up against. But then I'm looking into the captain's pick. So Burns, Henley, Bradley, Homa, Harman, Finau. I think they got it right. I looked beyond the points list from 13 on, and then you look at their finishes.
Yep.
I don't think there's anyone in the conversation that could have made the case to bump out anyone above.
And that's what it all boils down to for me, is that although you can make the argument that Furyk took the safe picks, where it's just much harder to argue against because he picked the top 12 guys in points straight up, I think that it was also the right pick because, like I said, there was no one further down the list who, similar like Glover, like we saw last year, picked up 2 wins at the end of the season, was blazing hot. There's nobody else in that list that is there. And if you guys think there is, let us know about it in the comments. Where I'm more concerned, though, and I think kind of bigger picture, is as we're saying this and saying there's no one really glaring at the bottom half of that team that's really played well. We just read off Max Homa's record. We read off Brian Harman's record. Where I worry a little bit more is total overall strength of team against this international team.
Right. The international team looks pretty stacked.
Yeah. Who do you say?
Matsuyama, Sunjae Im, Adam Scott, who's in form right now,
Absolutely.
by the way. So is Matsuyama. Tom Kim, Jason Day, which is playing well. Ben On. Then you got the Canadian heroes, Connors, Pendrith, and Hughes. Behezinadu. Is it?
Yeah. The hardest name to say.
I don't think anyone gets his
yeah.
name right. And then Minwoo and then Siwoo.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be one of the most exciting Presidents
Cups so
ever, because I think this is where we got some really tight, close matchups. And I think when you get down to that bottom 6, I think the U.S. team has the strength in the top 6. I think that the bench is almost seemingly feels deeper on the international side, the bottom 6.
Yeah.
But I think that Adam Scott was a perfect example. If let's say Adam Scott was an American, hard to picture him as an American and without his Aussie accent, right? But imagine if he was. That's a glaring perfect example of a guy who got really hot at the end of the season and would have made the case to leapfrog over one of the other guys, numbers, 7 through 12, who maybe have been struggling, like Max Homa as of late, and you could slot him in.
Totally.
But I just don't see that happened on the American side.
Yeah, no, I don't. And even why I'm more excited to watch this, think about the form that Scheffler, Schauffele, and Morikawa are in right now. Those guys are the hottest golfers on the planet. Just watching those guys. Hopefully they stay hot. Wyndham Clark, who everyone beat up this year.
Yeah.
Why is he in the Olympics? Look, I mean, those were the top 4 guys competing for the title on Sunday at the Tour Championship. Those are the top 4 guys in captain's picks.
Yeah.
I mean, in points.
Points, yep.
So that's the reason why Clark is in. He stayed hot, he's played well, and he's done well. So, but then the Cantlay, and then we talked about Thigala. So, I mean, I think the American team has an incredible edge, my opinion. But like you said, I think the international team can go a little deeper, whereas the American 6 captain's picks could suffer a little bit.
Yeah, and
that's
like
where they
can
lose it.
Not only is it looking record for record, but being the first time, and this is where maybe we'll see a little bit of redemption for, I know they didn't win, but I wonder if there's a little bit of redemption for Zach Johnson, because being that it's the first time without those names we're used to seeing every single year, Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, the guys who bring the team competition, real veterans in. What effect do they really have on the locker room? Because now you've got almost a very new team without those types of guys.
Yeah.
What effect will that have on the locker room? Will that have an effect on the overall energy? And to me, it just begs the question of, as dominant as guys like Scotty Scheffler and some of these other guys at the top of the list are they enough to carry it all the way through? Mm-hmm. And are they enough to pick up enough points versus a strong international team playing international as home? This is the home team this time, with it being hosted in Canada.
Yep.
It's an uphill battle to me for that American team, and I'm very interested to see if it pays off.
I think a lot more people are going to tune into this than previous President's Cups year. Actually, in fact, you and I went to a President's Cup.
Yeah, we did.
Liberty National right here in New Jersey. Let me tell you something. It was fun. It was awesome. It was the closest thing we've gotten to Ryder Cup. Right?
Exciting, electric.
People,
absolutely.
we had the American flag jackets on, you and I.
Yes.
Those are the good old days. Right?
Those were. But I'm excited also, being in Canada, it means time zone wise, we'll be able to watch it.
Yep.
In previous years, it's been tough when it's in Australia, the time zone difference of watching the event. The viewership tends to dip a little bit. But I think I'm excited to see it. I think that the one black eye on this whole thing is the fact that we continue to not have a deal from the PGA Tour, which we're going to continue to stay on top of. Make sure you guys subscribe. We'll keep watching that as hopefully some news develops slowly and drips and drabs, because though I think the one black eye is the sitting guys like Bryson. I think it's a totally different conversation we're having right now.
Yeah. If
you're able to put Bryson on that team, I think he adds a lot of strength to that team if you're able to put him on. So I think that's a big one. But otherwise, like I said, Jim Furyk went the safe route. I think that's what we've all kind of determined. But I think it also was the non-controversial and also probably the smart route. At the end of the day, I don't think there was anybody made the case enough for him to break up that top 12 in the points.
I think it's going to reward him favorably. I do. I really do.
Yeah. So let us know what you guys think. Drop your predictions in the comments. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you in the next one.